Hello, everybody, and welcome to the CCA League, our presentation here on the IPL side. My name is Keon. I am thrilled to be joined by the Shiny Hunter Zach himself. Zach, how are you doing?
Great. I'm super excited to see these collegiate matches. I know so much goes into just the setting up of these tournaments and the whole sort of best of seven format. It looks like it's been pretty close, all things considered. So can't wait to see what these two teams can really bring to the table today.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited here because this is actually our third straight Division One showcase that we've had so far, and UCSD is here for a second time. Last week they had a 4-3 finish. Actually, all the games may as well be gone all seven as they've won all of their games that they're at this stage 2-0 record. Of course, all of them going to a game seven. So. Either they don't want to, they may not want to deal with that sooner rather than later. Drexel is 1-1 entering this week. It should be a lot of fun ahead of us here, Zach.
Yeah, and take a look sort of at the layout. If we do go the whole distance here, we're going to be starting on a very fun map and mode combination. Rainmaker on Humpback Pump Track. It's kind of got the U-turn of death right next to where that first pedestal is. Go into maps like Inkblot Art Academy. You often see modes like Tower Control here, but this time we're going to be sticking with Clan Blitz. And then a couple that, we don't see too terribly often in tournament play, especially number 4 here with Tower Control on Hammerhead. So we're guaranteed to see that one, and definitely some fun ones if we need to go the distance to 7. Robo Ramen. I know at least one of these teams, it may be UCSD Gold, very, very strong on that map in particular. And then number 6, also a classic here with our second Clam Blitz map. So definitely a fun setup here, especially if we do play all 7 games out.
Yeah, I would love to see this go all seven, of course, or they may just end up doing it anyway per the tradition. But you bring up a great point. Games 3 and 4, of course, 4 is the elephant in the room, so to speak, here with that Hammerhead Tower Control map. But again, actually, we can expand it to Hammerhead not really being played often here, and it's making its grand appearance so far. And since it's game 4, both teams are inevitably going to have to run into that one, so it should be a lot of fun. I want to see how the fireworks start off here in this very small and condensed map in Humpback Pump Track Rainmaker for sure. So that's kind of how we have laid out here so far, especially with the map list. Obviously, two teams here looking to see if they can get a dub on the board as well. A lot of interesting things I was keeping an eye on with the keys to victory from what I saw, especially with especially if I'm reading this, yes, UCSD trying to keep a good mental each game. That's a very important thing, of course.
Yeah, and I like that they're taking that aspect of it seriously. We have the fun facts side of things where they can say, "Oh, what's the more humanized side of the players and what do they like to do?" Versus, when we're getting really down to the aspects of the game, what is it that you're going to need to win? And of course, another one for UCSD, slay the cooler weapon, and that's kind of been the standard for a very, very long time now. And I think these teams sort of maybe preferring a different cooler weapon each. We have what could be the NZAP 85 on the side of UCSD Gold versus maybe preferring the heavy edit on the side of Drexel Dragons. So neither, traditionally it looks like going with the pencil, which I think has been still very popular despite a couple attempts, including in the most recent patch, I believe, to balance it just a little bit. I think taking it up 10 more special points to build that up. But of course, that remains one of the standard keys to victory across the board for Drexel Dragons. They're number 2 in that regard, overwhelming opponents with specials. They have a couple of players who do very, very well in building up their specials generally. So I think in that aspect, that may be one of the areas where they have an edge over UCSD Esports Gold.
Yeah, and I want to see both teams have actually listed out special coordinations, and especially being a huge part of their game there, especially with Drexel Dragons. One of their key points is sticking together and watching each other's blind spots, trying to see if they can find any angles against this very tough UCSD Esports Gold squad coming into this one, especially with UCSD undefeated 2-0. So this would be the time to show that for sure. So I actually want to see how both teams approach it, especially from a special standpoint. Obviously, killing if the cooler weapons being used by Drexel, how can you eliminate them? That's if it does show up, of course, and that's really where we can go from there, for sure. So UCSD, want to backtrack here a little bit. Both teams have already had their taste of Game 7s already, too. I noted earlier in the cast, UCSD Esports Gold actually haven't required 2 Game 7s to get to the 2 0 mark. And then last week, actually, Drexel Dragons, Splatoon in this case, or Gold Splatoon here, actually had a game 7 last week against the UCF Knights, University of Central Florida for that matter. So both teams have had their fair share of very long sets, which I think the goal hopefully is try not to make it try not to get to game 7 if they can. It looks like we might be loading up here to our very first game here soon. Looks like not. We've been fooled. So nope, there it is. It took us a bit. As we take a look at the weapons right out of the game. By the way, for the team orientation here so far, it's gonna be UCSD gonna be on the gold side actually in this case, and Drexel's on the other side. Anything that sticks out to you, Zach?
Well, Keon, you sort of accurately predicted one team not bringing a cooler weapon mainly. Instead, we're going to have the ballpoint splatling. That's going to be sort of the choice. Both teams, I think, having a player that likes to run the Carbon Deco, but it's just going to be one this time around. Already a quick Ingzuka coming out from Nerdy Adam. They're trying to avoid the bomb. The cooler going to be coming out, of course, from Drexel as they look to back up. The big bubbler going to be one of the main defensive tools on the opposite side of things. And it looks like Drexel already being backed off of mid early.
Yeah, already being backed off of mid so far, and I'm wondering how the rest of in this case actually it's gonna be UCSD Esports Gold. Just get the colors are actually flipped in this case here because I do recognize Nerdy Adam is gonna be on is actually from the UCSD squad for sure. So looking to see how this is all playing out here with Zuka's being farmed and actually just finds Max Mix who's just swimming into that paint there. Already that's gonna be the quick lead change. Obviously early in the game, Ocean Opal picks up this Rainmaker there as Wallpoint from Turple's end is gonna go down as well. They are taking a little bit of time actually trying to get to the first checkpoint, but to no dice in that regard. And Zach, both teams getting early points on the board, but no checkpoint whatsoever.
Yeah, and the one crossover point here is that both teams are running that ballpoint, so they might be using that traditional sniper lip to sort of look over things. They actually used it there as we see the spot from Nerdy Adam once again with the Ingzuka to jump out after those shots were done, take out the Rainmaker in almost a suicide run, and to make sure that they were able to get that down. Of course, 80 not really going to get you very far on a map like this one where it's so easy and visible to get to that first checkpoint. UCSD pushing forward here. Ocean Opal with that ends up going to be the designated Rainmaker carrier, but they will fall 3 down situation. You got to be careful on a small map like this one. It's officially a wipeout now. That may be an overextension early, and now Drexel's chance to push forward.
That's you highlighted a key point there. When you're overextending just a tiny bit and not able to cash in the first checkpoint, especially with the team being fully wiped out, this could be a quick turnaround for Drexel if they can strike. But Drexel actually opting to play this one still very patiently there. Trip strikes being used. There is a cooler that is available from UCSD if they want to use it. Same with the crab tank as well from Drexel's end, as Max Mix using those dualies to decent effect there, able to pick out one. Now using the crab tank, gonna put a paint down, put a lot of paint down on the turf, excuse me, towards that checkpoint. Yellow's trying to swim through. There's still some patient play. Grace trying to race through. That will be a lead change. Will be the first checkpoint here soon. Yes, it will be. And Zach, Drexel gets first crack of the checkpoint.
Yeah, they're going to break that barrier first. And of course, one important thing, I hate to keep harping on the topography of this map, but we saw it with the trip strike there. You have such great visibility, but unless you're at the very top playing King of the Hill, you sort of have to blind shoot it. And the crab tank, of course, setting up in that position. The tri-strike coming out once again there to just set up and prevent anybody from grabbing that Rainmaker. Still some duels going out in mid, and they're winning a couple of them. The Inkjet going to have the overview. Goatchild there going to be grabbing the pick on the Rainmaker once again, not within the range of that big bubbler in order to help things out. No real overextension by Drexel, so they hold on. A couple members still alive there. You see Gillies with the Carbon Deco trying to shark around, but they may be too far away, and they get taken out as well. But finally, some reinforcements getting to mid there. And that's kind of how you have to play this map. Just push little by little, wait for those reinforcements. And again, it only took them to the middle of the map with all that effort.
All that effort being used in that middle side and all that being said and done. Yes, it is. Yes, it only is a what I like to call an effective reset there. But you hit the nail there at that stage. It's basically all right. Let's get the reinforcements in. It's a very small map. We can get quick points that way. If you've already also cracked through the first checkpoint, no problem. So Drexel just playing this one pretty patiently here. 2 members quickly down. There are trip strikes there, just delaying a little bit of time for that Rainmaker. Grace is not paying too much mind to it. Now they're racing to this other side where the base of UCSD lurks. There is the Inkjet there. Goatchild and Nerdy Adam surrounds Grace with that. Just 3 additional points, but 3 members are down, and Max Mix is trying to get any semblance of picks that they can get on the board to buy themselves some time to no success, and UCSD is pretty much set up for the first checkpoint coming up.
Yeah, it's the horseshoe of death for a reason. It's so difficult to get around. You can hold your specials until they're right about to get across that wall, and so many times, even if you just have bombs, it's so easy to just make it so difficult for the enemy team to get around that choke point, even with the wall being relatively low. We're seeing the tri-strikes come out once again. I'm not sure. I think they got off all three just barely, but Drexel trying to see if they can wait and paint their way out to victory. Turple using the inkjet there on the far side of the screen, seeing a couple trying to gravitate like flies to a windscreen there to that cooler, but mainly just going to be using that as a tool to back them off. Once again, the reset coming back to mid, but time not the favor of either of these teams. Not very far, though. So for UCSD, if they can pick up that Rainmaker, still a chance in overtime.
Still definitely a lot of chance there. They're going to lose one. They're going to lose a second member, and Ocean Opal's going to be the last one to hold on to it. Just has to opt for any semblance of survival, but the rest of Drexel collapses onto them. And Drexel Splatoon immediately starts this set off. That's going to be one up for them on the board.
Yeah, such an interesting map actually on Humpback Pump Track. You typically see this one, if it doesn't go to a full KO, it gets into the 30s or the 20s here. Drexel only getting it to 45. It took a while for the first team to even break that first pedestal, get that first checkpoint. But still, nice sort of solid play styles there. We saw them go back and forth, trading out in mid. In fact, we even saw sort of a 2v2 and then a separate 2v2 breakout where there were these micro encounters in mid at the very top of the map, literally playing that sort of king of the hill or sharking around by the moat. And then the others were by sort of where that turn is, where the first pedestal would be. So that becomes an important choke point, or if not, the actual wall, the sort of jumping off point where the lip is, where again, snipers or longer range flatlings typically like to set up. And to that point, the ball points weren't very passive in this one either. They were very much in play. They were right behind their teammates. So making use of their range, but using that to sort of take space, build up their inkjets. And as we saw there in the last maybe minute and a half, using it as a distancing tool to make it that much more difficult for the one team that did have cooler to actually go and pick up that buff. So nice close match here, not too emphatic. I think this one could definitely not result in a sweep by any means. We could definitely see some back and forth in this one.
I actually think this could be set up for a great back and forth there. I was actually kind of surprised with the way that this game kind of played out. More kind of not taking as many advantages as they can, so trying to play this one passively. Kind of, as you noted, just these small skirmishes across the board, small 2v2s happening on one side. Then there's another fight that's all happening at the same time. It's like, okay, well, we can't really cash in on a lot of points if there's all this fighting that's really happening. So we just got to take our time and try to get those points one by one, then see who cashes out in the end. And in this case, Drexel does a great job at it. We could be set up for something cool though, because we are going on this Ink Block Clan Blitz map, which we feel like we haven't seen this one before. Obviously, in another league, Ludi is also running this map, so this could be familiar territory for some not as much. So I think with the way both teams are kind of set up, we could be seeing something similar with what we saw from game one.
Yeah, and per Grace, we actually have the stats of both of these teams and these players, and neither team having anybody with more than 13 splat/splat assists in that entire game. So not really a knockdown drag out, more of a war of attrition. In fact, only the one player, Nerdy Adam, getting 13 splat assists. The rest of the teammates not getting more than 10 throughout that entire match that went to overtime, if only for a second. And we have stats like Nerdy Adam once again, 8 Inkzukas there, 8 Trizukas going out. Grace on that Splattershot Junior having 7 big bubblers. So really preferring to just take space, paint as much as they can, and try to use their specials to get into the best position possible. And not too different a map. It does change in the fact that there is a sort of more square outline than this more circular one, which is pretty uncommon in most Splatoon maps. And then, of course, you have just some obstacles in your way. Of course, for Clan Blitz, the map is going to change slightly, where you have that ramp basically right up as we get into it to where that barrier is going to be. And already, Kyon, seeing some compositional changes.
Yeah, already some comp changes here, as we do get to see that Zimmy being used as well, along with that RBP deco from Turple as well. So basically, both teams kind of opting to make a few changes there. What's kind of striking out to me so far, Drexel's still not running with that cooler. Now we have the cooler option again from UCSD. This time it's going to that pencil. So wanting to see how this is all going to play out. I actually love this pencil change here too. That covers a lot of turf, so to speak, especially with how Inkblot is kind of set up. So want to see how this all plays out here. Right out of the gate so far, Zach, it's just 11 clams already collected up, but so far no power claims, so to speak, so both teams just taking their time.
Yeah, you don't really see Charger players set up in, I guess, what's called the Nike spot, sort of that overhang. It's more so behind this box if they can. Gilly's trying for a cheeky little flank there or an aggressive move with the roller, not really going to happen, and that's going to set up a lot of space here for UCSD Esports with that same issue said. So they're going to have a bubble to counter the one that the Splattershot Junior farmed 7 times as we saw in the last match there, but they're not going to be doing much right now as they have been taken down. Nerdy Adam, who did swap their weapon, gets a pick and then will fall to Turple, who was able to back things up with that rapid blaster pro deco. So hanging on, being that sort of long range poke aggressor there, really using their range alongside some of their other weapons, like maybe the vertical flick of the roller, but that's about it. They don't really have anything like a pencil as we see Gillies get out there. So again, more metered play. We're seeing that consistency there as Gillies takes sort of a one-on-one there against Nerdy Adam on the left side and wins it, but neither team really feeling confident enough yet to push forward.
It feels like this has been a theme, actually, just from the first game. I know we're only two games in, but both teams are just trying to play a little bit coordinated, so to speak. They're looking for the right time to strike. As this is a good time for UCSD now, as they've invaded Drexel's base there. That's gonna be the first clam already cashed in. As Drexel now trying to reset up on defense, they lose 2 just like that. But there are the trip strikes being used, trying to clear out that space, trying to get more clams on the board. It is gonna be 1+3 right out of the gate so far. Correction, 4 in that matter. Turple is gonna try to roam right in. Blaster's throwing out a few more clams there. There goes the Simi. There goes the bucket. Nerdy Adams on the side. They're having to escape there. Gillies gets the pick onto them. That's just going to be the push. Noted there earlier, waiting for the right time to strike, and that's kind of what we saw. Then UCSD gets control of Drexel's base, and they take it down to 56 points remaining there, Zach.
Yeah, so 2 typical schools of thought with making pushes on Clam Blitz. One, which we saw UCSD employ, is that they just want enough to have a power clam. If they have a few more, that's fine, and they're just going to scramble around, make sure they can hold space, and have 1 or 2 people go designated to grab clams and just score them on the fly. Now we have what Drexel was trying to do maybe there, is they had 14 or 15, but get wiped out here, is try to build up a lot of clams, maybe even 2 power clams, and then push forward here. But UCSD already going to have another power clam and get the break on the barricade first, but they'll lose 2 members pretty immediately, though it's a 2v2. We see Nerdy Adam trying to win those fights while they send their blaster out to get the rest of the clams, but they're just not going to have enough time. You see how far out they are, in part using that as a way to get the rest of their teammates in. You can see the Slosher able to jump into blaster, but the push unfortunately not able to continue. They're just going to get maybe about 4 points off of what they had penalty wise, but they're keeping the pressure on, and time not really the friend of Drexel Gold right now.
I love the fact they're keeping up with this tempo right away. UCSD is just trying to keep playing this one aggressively there. Nerdy Adam a little unfortunate. Their short throws that power clam is just gonna not get. It's not gonna get cashed in based on where that clam is. So that's gonna be 1 power clam out of the picture just like that. But the rest of UCSD Esports Gold not paying too much mind to that missed opportunity. They're still playing this one very strong onto the base of Drexel Esports. In this case, there's gonna be 2 members down. Turbo does get the pick, but there's still a barrier that's been broken there. They bring it down 7 more points cashed in, and this has just been Drexel playing defense for the longest time. They are going to get the stop just like that. It's still very manageable there for Drexel. They got 2 power claims that are available here, Zach, but they just got to win those fights because UCSD has been invading.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. They're not winning the fights. They're not taking the one-on-ones and 2v2s and winning them the way they need to be. We do see Max Mix get the pick there onto Blaster. So again, that's going to stop any sort of bubble, but Nerdy Adam getting the win once again. And now they're taking another one there.
Man.
Gilly's going to fall as well. They were tracking a third. Grace going to help win that one to defend things, but they can't be just defending at this point. They haven't got a single break on the barricade. They had their big bubbler, and their junior's going to fall. So that's going to be one of their main specials left off the table. I think they have Crab left, and they're going to maybe use it to create some distancing here. 15 power clams, so they're going to have to do pretty much everything in one go here if they want a shot. Forced off the high ground is Max Mix and Nerdy Adam waiting almost like a baseball player catching a pop fly to make sure that they get taken down in full. 2 players down, the roller and the junior with their specials at the ready. They do have a power clam, and now 2. Can they push forward here, killing in this overtime?
That's the question now. They gotta start moving up forward. There is a bomb and there is another pick. The answer will most likely be no unless Drexel can recover, which they will not be able to. That's gonna be delayed for both power claims completely gone. Overtime was also gone on top of it. And UCSD Esports Gold, they take home that second map. And what was basically Drexel just trying to find any chance to get out of mid and into UCSD Esports Gold's base. UCSD's like, no, forget that. We're not allowing you.
Yeah, the way UCSD played in that game 1 did not really, again, make me think that this one was going to be a sweep. They feel like they had a lot of strats, as we see the nice fist bump there by Blaster and Goat Child to cap things off. It was a very, very strong showing. in this game number 2. Goes to time once again. So not any emphatic knockouts as of yet, but they're just doing everything right. They're holding on to the space that they've created. They're taking safe fights. And I love that play at the end where they knew that they might have a crab tank ready. They get onto the high ground. That sort of telegraphs even that they're going to be using it once they get to a position where they can have a better view of the entire map. There's not too many points on Inkbot Art Academy where you can get that. They see the pressure from the front. They have to roll off because of the tri-strike, and Nerdy Adam is basically waiting, didn't even bother to climb up that box and try and flank from behind and get the pick. That way, they knew the tri-strike was coming out. They fall off as a result in one of the only areas that they could, and that's a big special taken down. You have the junior with the big bubbler a few times, wasn't able to get that in a position where maybe you put it on the ramp and you use that as a point of entry. This is Splatoon 2 where you have something like the bubble blower or a baller to jump to. You have to be very creative with how you get in, and Drexel not just able to find those opportunities, even when they maybe looked like they were going to pivot to the more UCSD style, where they were just going to take a power clam and run with it, not able to get enough space to make it happen. So not just good offense there by UCSD, but good defense as well.
So one of the things you pretty much touched upon that I think was the turning point was the trip strikes that forced the crab out of Max Mix, and then having to escape where Nerdy Adam just completely collapsed onto them. That was like the one special I felt like out of many where they needed that crab tank to just build any semblance of space, because UCSD had a lot of control of the map throughout that game, and the way things were going, they're now just playing catch up the rest of the way. It was like so in this scenario, Drexel was pretty much set up pretty well, just could not get the deal done, and now we get this 1-1 tie. Of course, the scoreboard says 2-0. We're gonna get that fixed. It is a 1-1 tie coming into this. As we move ahead. Now, this third map doesn't see a lot of airtime, so to speak, here, Zach, because it's Manta Maria zones. Maybe you only see it maybe a few times here in Anarchy or in other zones only tournaments. So I'm curious to see how both teams approach it.
Yeah, maybe if any of them were playing in Splatoon 2, they remember too many GG rays and don't really want to relive those memories by playing these maps once again. But looking at the stats again from the last map, the standout for the losing Drexel Dragons there, Turple going 11-6 with the very eclectic kit of the Rapid Blaster Pro Deco with the angle shooter and the killer whale. So kind of funny. We'll see if, on a map that has both verticality and longevity, it's a very linear map going into Manta Maria. We'll see if that makes a return. On the opposite side of things for UCSD, the Pencil 12-1 with 6 coolers created. So that, of course, a dominant performance and a very dominant weapon as it has been for many months now. Nerdy Adam once again being the offensive tip of the spear, going 18-7 with a mere 5 Trizukas created as opposed to the 8 that they were able to manifest in game number 1. So if you're Drexel looking to shut things down, you're going to need to sort of tackle the main front line and main back line, and we'll see what those weapon changes are here, Keon.
You know what? So Goatchild, I know, is probably one of the few E-Leader specialists that I've seen in quite some time. So I want to see. So I'm excited to see how Goatchild approaches this. Right away, by the way, Blue Dapples, by the way, making its grand appearance. That's the one with the Reef Slider as well. And there's that Tri-Saucer Nouveau being there. It's almost it feels like a wholesale change to say the least from UCSD Esports Gold. Drexel's just gonna stick to what they know best. So I'm wondering at this stage, Zach, how UCSD comp kind of fits into this Manta Maria Zones map.
And yeah, those are the main two strategies. You either have, set weapons that you like to play on certain map mode combinations and you're not afraid to change even if you have a very strong win, or you have a composition that you feel very heavily in, and 90 to 95% of the time you run that composition regardless of what the map and mode is. Now, as we mentioned, this one not really seen in tournament play too often. It's kind of a funky 2-zone map as we see both teams kind of trading back and forth. Early lead coming out here for Drexel as Blaster kind of rolling around trying to see if they can survive, but of course such short range on the Dapple Dooley's Nouveau. It does have a very fun kit with the torpedo, and as you mentioned, the Reef Slider there. Max Mix not in any danger right now and using the grates to their advantage, getting the pick there onto Goatchild with the alternate fire, and they even have Grace yet again on that Junior. You talk about weapons that they sort of like to play. The Junior was definitely one of them as Turple pops that Inkjet. They're going to be holding things down for now, which is even tougher on a 2-zone map like this one.
Very awkward two-zone map is a very accurate statement there. Both teams are just having to maneuver around not just the center of the boat there, but also the fact that one zone getting capped means that's gonna stall your push and force it into that neutral state. So we're getting to see a lot of these skirmishes play out, and a lot of the players that are pretty much stuck in paint duty, just trying to get paint down on the turf, give the other team give their team a chance to move in and get the zone as well. Excuse me, as we do get to see both teams not being able to crack past 75 points remaining. It's been a pretty even matchup so far. Go Child is pretty much the one on E leader duties, trying to find a few snipes, not able to find them so far, but this could be an opening here. UCSD Esports Gold, they take out 2. Max Mix is shut down by Adam, who was running that crab tank, and Blaster trying to run in with the reef slider there to not able to find anybody, but no matter the cost, it clears out space, and UCSD Esports Gold not only take lead, they still have control of the zone.
Yeah, Nerdy Adam, not only that offensive starting point there for UCSD, but also the designator crab takedown player against Max Mix there. This time they were going all the way around to take them down. And you talked about painting. Painting should, in theory, I would think, be in favor of Drexel Gold. They have the ballpoint as their backline there instead of the E-leader there. But now Nerdy Adam trying to get in. They're not able to get much off with the tri-strike. They do manage to get the big bubbler out there from Grace. Gillies going through and also using that big bubbler. They set it up on the zone. So they have that nice strategy of allocating one big bubbler per zone, which they were finally able to implement there. It was a large push from UCSD. You can get somewhat spawn trapped on this map, is part of why I think we don't see this map too much in tournament plays, because if it gets too overwhelmingly one-sided, you can see players not even able to get anywhere close to the middle of the map, which for zones is basically a death sentence.
And that's the big thing there too, is if you're not able to get able to recover nicely after losing that big of a lead, now you're basically having to play catch up, which can take a long time. And to your point, the 2 bubbles that were available, one for each zone, it has really helped Drexel, the Drexel in this case, excuse me, trying to get any capture of that zone and trying to find ways to catch UCSD Esports Gold off guard. Now, the good thing for Drexel here is they are able to capture the zone. They need to get into step 2 here, where they have to keep a sustained push going for as long as they can. This could be the time. We get to see this ancient being used by Turple in this side. There's Gillies, by the way, that did go down, but this is a huge defensive front that Drexel is showing off right now, trying to keep everybody at mid, trying to prevent any entrance from UCSD Esports Gold from happening. In fact, it's done so well. It is a lead change, and Zach, just like that, they were able to hold off for time, and Drexel gets the zone.
Yeah, to your point, that might have looked like somewhat of an optimistic inkjet, but it is more of a zoning special than anything. Not really expecting to get too much unless we saw an overextension there. But Nerdy Adam, always the constant pressuring threat there for UCSD. They just stopped them at 5. Are they able to paint enough? They do get 1 zone, but of course they need 2, and Gillies has that big bubbler there set up on the other, which is going to make it so much more difficult. It looks like they get sniped there by the E-leader, so they do lock it down, and a big penalty sent over. But now, even with that, UCSD loath to let go of either zone, as we're going to need overtime for this one. They do force a 3-down situation against Drexel, but it's now going to be about how does Drexel re-enter and what can they do to stop this last overtime push from UCSD.
They got that inkjet that is available from Turple. This is going to be the time to get value out of that inkjet, but or even just keep chugging into the zone to just buy out overtime here. There's 8 points left of overtime, so to speak. There is also a crab tank that is available. Max Mix was getting caught into no man's land, has to use his crab tank just above, which is going to be good if they can keep it neutral for just a long enough time, but 2 members have gone down. They just got to throw all the paint onto both zones. There's 2 members down. They're holding it off for as long as they could. That's really what you need to do if you are Drexel, and Drexel 2-1 coming into game 3. Great execution of the double bubble for sure, and a great job holding off UCSD Esports Gold, preventing them from getting any capture of the zone.
And again, another so close game there, going game 3 to Drexel, and that one could easily have gone in UCSD's favor. I think they literally did just enough in order to make sure that we had some nice action there at the final moments of overtime. They had a few specials that they needed to expend there. The inkjet, as you mentioned, and the crab tank just barely doing enough, not even claiming one of the zones in full, but keeping them locked long enough for things to go Drexel's way. And that's why I think we have such a good chance of going to game 7 here. It's just so much back and forth, and lots of times they were not really even skirmishing in each other's faces that often. It was only when one team ever passed both zones, they were so confident and had so much map control that they were able to get ahead of both of those zones, that we ever saw many of those sort of skirmishing team fights in earnest. Everywhere else, it was sort of spread out across that entire large aspect of the map, almost the largest point of Manta Maria, that middle area where you have the two zones and then the two sort of pockets on the left and right, those court areas. So really, you have both sort of the poking back and forth, and then you have, okay, we're going to try and overwhelm you and see if we can get things. We never really saw a true wipeout. We always had one team able to get one member back in pretty easily. That's why it was never truly ever one-sided. And that's why I think we will have to see what UCSD, who did swap their team comp pretty heavily, as we mentioned. We can expect maybe to see that again going into game 4 here. What will they do this time to surprise us and see if they can lock this set at 2 apiece?
That was kind of in sports terms, almost kind of emptying the bench there, just trying to throw out any different specialized weapons on the board, and it kind of had some good results there, but not really enough to go through the double bubble, this inkjet setup, which the key point right around that zone where Drexel had control of both was just a full defensive front because of how odd this map is overall. We kind of saw Drexel was able to keep that sustained. It was making it harder for UCSD to just get through and get any of the zones in question. So I feel like with this map specific change that we map comp specific change, at least is my read on that, it was didn't quite work out. Now we go to Hammerhead Tower Control for game 4 of the elephant in the room I like to call of odd maps to see. So I'm wondering how both teams approach it. But Zach, I'm looking at the stats here. The bubbles kind of were an interesting point because there were three that were available by Gillies. Grace had 6 of them, but when they needed bubble, it came out at good moments.
Yeah, they used them really only when they needed to. I think Gillies, especially, only using 3 there, going 10 and 9. Not using them maybe in the traditional way where you try to use them for one-on-one fights and maybe get a pick because you have the advantage of the big bubbler. Using them only for when you're trying to take that one zone back and you have your other teammates working exclusively on that other zone to your right. So Gillies, the one person with the one special there, they're able to lock down a zone themselves. That's a huge advantage in and of itself. And that is playing to the objective rather than playing to the sort of deathmatch aspect of things where you're trying to get as many picks as possible, 10 being the most that any player got in terms of splats and assists in this map. We are going to another very linear map here, so in terms of changeover from one map to the next, going from Manta Maria to Hammerhead, a pretty natural transition, but some rather unnatural weapons here as we see the return of the Rapid Blaster Pro Deco, and on the opposite side of things, a swap by Nerdy Adam over to the Forge Splattershot Pro.
You know what? I've actually seen one member from UCSD Esports Gold, I think specifically Nerdy Adam, dish out the Forge Pro in previous CCA League seasons. So this isn't a far out pick, but it is an oddball choice that you just don't normally see airtime here from either team. So I'm curious to see how Nerdy Adam can take advantage of that Forge Pro, especially with the Booyah Bomb special that is available on their side. They're also going back to the Zap. They also go to the Slosher, which has worked out for them. RBP Deco being used from Drexel in this case, but there is that Booyah Bomb being used. That's the first checkpoint being cleared. It clears out Grace there, who was their heavy painter, but that's not going to pay too much mind there. Gilly clears out 1. That's Ocean Opal going down, and the tower keeps moving right along. 3 members quickly down, and Max Mix clears out Goat Child. That's going to be, I believe, a delayed wipe, and that's the second checkpoint being cleared, and things could snowball out of here quick.
Drexel absolutely slaying right now, and this is where you're playing to the objective. Now, this objective, because it's moving forward, Gillies can afford to expend that big bubbler and use it offensively like that, and that is the sort of rock that gets the momentum going. They're able to get 2 or 3 splats and carve that path forward here. You only have this sort of narrow ramp to get through if you're not on the tower or if you're not using a special that allows you to get into the air. So now UCSD having to use their cooler all the way back here. Nice snipe, though, onto Grace. That's going to be one of your potential, now both of your potential big bubblers taken down. A push all the way to 7 in the first minute and a half. A complete juxtaposition from the wars of attrition that we've seen from both of these teams on a lot of maps, especially ones like this where it's so far out and linear that may be a death sentence. Now UCSD effectively needing a knockout to take this one back.
That's what I'm going to be curious to see is the special coordination. This is one of the key points that UCSD had is if they have the specials, can they use them effectively? Gilly's kind of caught in no man's land, has to quickly escape. Two members, by the way, quickly done from Drexel's end. So with how linear this map is, as you noted, if things start to go out of control and and one team just invades their base, this could get out of control in a hurry. There, even with the tower moving in one speed, as Goldchild was caught out. This was where things could go way out of control. Thankfully for Drexel, though, they are going to be able to put a stop into this one. And Drexel's been having good reads so far onto UCSD's end, and now they're trying to go back on the offensive once more here, Zach.
Yep, watching Gillies here, who is going to have the big bubbler, and of course they have that roller, that curling rock there to get forward. Can they make anything happen? They sort of expended everything that they had available to them. They used the curling bomb, they used the big bubbler, and they're left without many options, so they are going to go down. It's just the Rapid Blaster Pro Deco there with the Killer Whale at the ready, I believe. The Tri-Strike going to come out, I believe, from the Slosher, who is going to go down. Oame following shortly after. Gillies playing defense on this sort of low wall as they try and prevent UCSD. Now it's just, how do you want to play this? Do you want to be the offensive overextension type where you want to see if you can get a knockout if you're Drexel, or do you mainly just want to sit back and play defense? Again, using the sports analogies, defense does win championships, but some teams, if they get too lax, they can sometimes have difficulty if they just sit back and allow too much room to be gained, in this case by UCSD.
That's actually kind of an interesting point in Splatoon for sure. If you play too relaxed or play too defensively, you might give your opponent a chance to just take even more space or get more aggressive. This is a time where, as you get to see UCSD already gaining delayed wipe. Now this is the second checkpoint being cleared out. How does Drexel respond? This could be a bigger push coming out of UCSD Esports Gold if they play their cards right. They got two specials that are available. Booyah Bomb is there. Triple Ink Strikes are also available as they're approaching this checkpoint right now. Max Mix and Gillies trying to collapse onto them, and this is looking successful right now. They clear out 3. 4 members have all gone down in UCSD Esports Gold. The wipeout is there. 59 seconds left to go there, Zach, and that is a successful hold from Drexel.
Yeah, and maybe the strategy is scatter until you see that UCSD has expended most of their resources. As you mentioned, they had 2 specials at the ready. They were both sort of painting specials, and they were area of denial specials as well. So you get those 2 out of the way if they use them too early. And maybe you have to, if you're UCSD, to claim that much space, maybe you have to have a chance, and you sort of have to roll the dice and see if you can back it up with the one-on-one or the non-special gameplay there. They're just not able to make it happen, so it's going to require at least one more push, and here it comes. They're going to have the cooler at the ready, at least 3 members grabbing it out. Go Child on the E-leader, going to see if they can get any picks. That's going to be super important. That's going to be their designated tower carrier likely. They do lose one who is going to jump in. They're able to get a pick in return in Gillies, but that is a player who's going to be relatively back, one of the quickest out of all the members. Ideally, you want to try and take down the Rapid Blaster Pro Deco, who can poke you from the longest range. Grace having it back up as we get now Keon into overtime for UCSD.
Overtime right now, 1 member down. That's Nerdy Adam that is going to be coming out of the respawn here soon. Now they got to play their cards right. That's 1 member down on both sides so far. Gillies is trying to run right in and gets Goat Child. Nobody's going to be right at the tower until Nerdy Adam and Oami is able to get through. Turbo shuts them both down. 2 splats are on the tower, and Drexel Splatoon has taken home game number 4. It is going to be match point coming up here, Zach, to see if Drexel can improve to 2-1.
Yeah, first time we've seen a team in this set take back-to-back games, so strong start. Again, we mentioned before this one got started the similarities between Manta Maria and Hammerhead Bridge, not only because both of them we don't really see very often, but also just because they are so linear, they are so straightforward, and it is so difficult to get back into the fight if you don't have a jump in, especially if you can avoid that jump in being telegraphed. Then it is a much smaller map like we started on, especially Inkblot Art Academy. It is not very difficult on a map like that one to get back into the fight. So very nice job there from Drexel. They played their game perfectly. It lended itself well to, as we saw at the start of the match, Gillies using that big bubbler to be very aggressive, whereas a weapon like the Splattershot Junior, it's sort of meant to build the bubblers up quickly, but it's not really meant for those offensive engagements. It's more so for skirmishing, grabbing paint, and then backing out if they get in danger. We saw that multiple times where Grace was just prioritizing their life over anything else, making sure that they could stick around long enough to have that big bubbler. And we didn't even see it on the tower too very much. It's sort of behind the tower or in the midst of battle. not so much to protect the objective, because you know the enemy team has the Booyah Bomb, they have the Tri-Strike, so they can get rid of that big bubbler in an instant, and not just that, but maybe take down the people that are under it with them. So you have to be very careful there. Drexel does a great job, and the reward is being one game away from taking this match and being the first team this run to take down UCSD Esports Gold.
That's gonna be, and the question now is, can they do it into this fifth game coming up here for Drexel? They are looking really good so far, but UCSD has shown a lot of great signs of still being able to compete. They just gotta piece it all together for the next two, or next three, even for themselves if they want to win it. I take a look real quickly at the sets. Huge shout outs to Grace for supplying them for us there. You know, Grace as pretty much the designated painter there for Drexel in this case, able to throw out 6 big bubblers in that sequence, and it's looking really solid for them, along with 3 other big bubblers that are available. Max Mix had 5 crab tanks as well, and Turple 12 and 3 on their stat lines. So Drexel, yes, they had a lot of bubblers. They also had the crabs available. Felt like this was a game where they definitely were able to get the most out of it. UCSD Esports Gold, they actually definitely tried. They had 6 Booyah Bombs from Nerdy Adam, 6 triple ink strikes from Wami, but Wami had one of those games where I'm sure most people can relate in Soul Cues may want to try that again some other time.
Yeah, and Turple mainly being the unsolvable mystery there, going 12 and 3 with that Rapid Blaster Pro Deco. More of an aggressive game, even though that one also, I mean, every game has been basically the same. You dip your toe, just a bit of your toe into overtime. You don't get too far into it, and you know the result by the end of it. And the sort of KAs, the KADs for these have been relatively muted. This is one of the first ones where we've seen somebody get to 15 and 11 for Gillies, and 15 and 9 for Nerdy Adam, 14 and 7 for Ocean Opal on the NZAP with 7 coolers created. And it just doesn't do enough for them there to counter what you call the double big bubbler composition there. Max Mix getting 5 crabs off, not too much of a threat. Let's see what they bring to what could be, as you mentioned, this match point here. Already the changes I'm noting. Nerdy Adam swapping once again, this time to the 52, a perennial threat, as we see Gillies going over this time to the Carbon Deco.
And Blaster, by the way, subbed in for Ocean Noble, is going to be back with those dabbles there, with of course the Reef Slider available. And I'm curious about this Carbon Roller change, Carbon Roller Deco change. Excuse me, the one with the Zuka coming up here for Drexel. You do have that designated painter in Grace, who's just been able to supply a lot of paint for her team in this scenario. So Gilly's the one with the hands on it, going to see if they can make the most out of it. So you can see Gilly's just kind of swimming around here into this Ramen Rainmaker map, a very interesting one coming up, as already Drexel picks up this Rainmaker. Wami's just trying to collapse right into it and shut down right away, but it's 2 members down on both sides. Both teams gonna have to just get their offenses restarted right away here. Zach, Nerdy Adam's gonna have a response into Max Mix at the very least.
Yeah, Nerdy Adam always sort of being that front line there. If UCSD wants a chance, I think Robo Brahmin is their map. We noted at the beginning of this set that this is one of their best maps, regardless of mode, and Oame sort of being the designated Rainmaker carrier here. We love to see that pushing forward, trying to see if they can get around. They do survive the Gillies onslaught, and they have the painted path there. Nice coordination from UCSD to break that pedestal first. It is not far away at all from the center of the map where the Rainmaker spawns, so one of the easier first points you're going to see, only getting them to 70 as opposed to the traditional 60 there. As the pencil's going to go down early, Blaster going to expend the Reef Slider early. They're in the midst of a 1v2. They roll out of the way. They're going to survive, but will they have enough created? They get absolutely dove upon by the Carbon Deco there of Gillies, who will also fall. It's 2 going down. Nerdy Adam picking them off like flies. Full wipeout, and UCSD going to be pushing forward once again.
This is a good chance for UCSD to extend this lead even further there, and that fight could have worked out so well so well for them. Excuse me. 2 members already down to this 13 points remaining here. Turple burning the whale, of course, just trying to throw UCSD a little off guard. Gillies is gonna get caught flat-footed there. 2 members, and then Blaster just swims right into the bomb, and it will be Turple at least holding this Rainmaker forward. Drexel is gonna at least get their hands on this Rainmaker. 2:45 left to go. 13 points remain. Still good amount of time to make this push count. But they're gonna have to start this one. They're gonna have to start this one very aggressively here. 3 with Max Mix. Turple is still trying to surround it through, but Nerdy Adam is about to be throwing Drexel into a big flank there. That's the collapse. 3 members down. Nerdy Adam has caught them off guard.
Yeah, Nerdy Adam drawing my eye that whole time by going around on that massive flank. I was so interested to see Drexel not really pushing forward and trying to take that pedestal. They were just kind of sitting back, shooting the Rainmaker shots off, and 3 of them were sitting inside that big bubbler as though everybody from UCSD was sitting right in front of it. I don't think it was that serious. I feel like they could have pushed forward here. They get now all the way to 8. Nerdy Adam's still up, and they get the pick onto Turple. Unfortunately, can't stay alive long enough for folks to jump to, really, so they do get stopped once again, but that's an extension of the lead, all created because Nerdy Adam had the bandwidth to go around the long way, get the pick on one, get the pick on the Rainmaker carrier, and then advances forward here. And now, even though the Rainmaker is going to reset back to mid, they are keeping the members of Drexel at bay, and especially from building up their special. They had the crafting, and they're going to lose it, Keon, almost immediately.
What's interesting is I was about to note the same thing you did. Is like, are they going to reset it? No, reset in this case. No, Turple is actually the one that picks up the Rainmaker close to base, and they're just going to have to wrestle it forward. They're likely just recognizing, all right, we don't have quite enough control of mid. We got to be able to just fight for every battle that they can find. And especially trying to see if they can find Nerdy Adam there. Gillies is still trying to get a few picks, trying to do as much as they can for their team. They split out 2 there by themselves, and this is going to be Drexel's time. This is a great opportunity for them to start taking control of the map, trying to see if they can catch UCSD off guard. But Nerdy Adam in this case is the one that's moving forward for UCSD. Blasters right there, waiting at the wings, trying to distract Drexel from moving forward. They do take out one, they take out 2 as well. UCSD Esports Gold is still playing aggressively. The Rainmaker resets, but there's only 45 seconds left. There are 3 specials available from Drexel.
Yeah, they opt not to pick up the Rainmaker there, so they're sort of skirmishing with Drexel. They don't end up pushing the objective. They don't want to give a quick turnover there that would put Drexel in an advantageous position, but now they're looking to beat anyway. They have 3 specials at the ready, and here's Maximix once again with that crab tank, trying to get if anybody picked off Goat Child there, looking like a prime target, but they're not able to finish them off. Nerdy Adam seeing if they can get the Rainmaker down, but they end up falling. They also lose the battle with Maximix there, as we see a bit of a connection error. Will anybody disconnect? We hope not. Nerdy Adam coming back from spawn here with that killer whale. They are going to target the Rainmaker carrier. Can they get them? Not before the pedestal is broken, and with 4 seconds left to go, once again, it looks like we may enter overtime.
Entering overtime right now. They gotta break through this barrier, but this is a great hold by UCSD, just defending this one and preventing it from being popped. It's gonna be GG's on that one. A little bit of an interesting scare with about 20 seconds left to go on the clock, but ultimately UCSD Esports Gold, they extend the set and they will stay alive here in the set here coming into game 6.
Yeah, very back and forth. Of course, the main storylines, it feels like once again, Nerdy Adam brought up so much because of how much they were flanking around and doing so much damage with that 2-shot capable 52 gal. And on the other side, Gillies, it's one of those Talladega Night style weapons where if you ain't first, you're last. You're kind of flying by the seat of your pants with that weapon. Every time we spectated them, they were squid surging around. They were throwing the burst bombs. They were seeing if they could get just a quick flick and then swim away. It's such an interesting weapon to watch because of how dangerous it is. Every time you engage, you have almost negative range on a weapon like that, but it's so fun to see. We also got to see, of course, the hero dualies rolling around. Maximix there with the crab. It seems like it'd be a very good special to use because you have good visibility if you can get on top of those thin walls and backup players like Goat who were trying to get things set up. But really a nice push there by UCSD Esport. A lot of it facilitated by their offensive edge, but also good Rainmaker carrying there by their Slosher. And now they're 2 away from completing not the reverse sweep, but just a very strong match against Drexel. And it's looked similarly just back and forth this whole way, still gone to overtime. I'm waiting to see if any team can break through and stop us from going to overtime, just have a more emphatic knockout. And maybe this game 6 will be the first change that we see of that, Keon.
Maybe this will be the first time we'll see the KO there, but the way both teams have kind of just been slugging it out, it's been crazy to say the least. Not one dominant victory, but feels like the end other than this map and the previous one. So I'm curious to see how this is all playing out. We do get to see the stats here. Nerdy Adam, by the way, the first push, sure, UCSD Esports Gold takes it down. Then all the holds that came after was all on Nerdy Adam as well. And those picks, they're 20 picks for Nerdy Adam, and of course 7 deaths on that front. Nerdy Adam was just playing phenomenal on that map.
Yeah, Goatchild 10-2 as well. So remaining a difficult presence to take down. Turple there, 10-7 pretty quickly now. We're going to be getting into a much more traditional tournament-style map and mode combination for Game 6 here in Plan Blitz on Scorch Gorge. So this one should be very familiar if y'all are at all familiar with competitive Splatoon, the big change that we're seeing, Dark Tetra Dualies coming out from Blaster there with lots of quick respawn and stealth jump akin to Splatoon 1. On the opposite side of things, pretty similar loadout. We're going to see the ballpoint return, but still going to have the hero roller. We're going to have the junior once again. And for UCSD, the 52 is going to go down early. So Gillies and the rest of Drexel are going to be taking mid early.
Yeah, already good control of mid. Now they can look for the clams to be built up there. Look to see if they can get the first push on the board. That's the first bubbler being used. That's Grace. That's gonna pop it right there, and that will be the first cash in of the game. Turbo gets one just like that. Max Mix has got to wait for to get out of crab to cash on the next 4, which they should be able to. Yes, so Max Mix able to cash in on 4 more bubbles. Oh, by the way, a very aggressive bubble. I just saw him up ahead there with Gillies using it to make sure UCSD is going to be more focused on them and to protect Gillies themselves, but he will effectively go down on top of it. I think it was Gillies or Grace, one of the two, but either way, one quick push. It was 1+4 for the cash in, and Drexel's already starting off strong.
One player we haven't really talked about for UCSD is Oame. Kind of been that consistent force on the slosher, not really one of those main slaying style of sloshers, more so consistently building up the special, seeing if they can get the tri-strike online, and then if they can take somebody out with them, all the better. We see Grace here using that big bubbler in the back. That's just what the junior is capable of. They use the big bubbler when they got it. It's not something where they really coordinate around it too often. They're also partly for survivability if needed. Look at where Nerdy Adam is. Nerdy Adam is deep in enemy territory, and they just needed one, and they're able to get it. So they're going to get this sneaky break on the objective here. Drexel Dragons scrambling to get back in time. Now 2 more specials going to come out from UCSD. They get the Tri-Strike and the Reef Slider, but it's not going to amount to any more. In fact, they lose cumulatively 3 of their members, so they get the break of the objective, but they don't get the lead, and now the Drexel Dragons are going to have a big comeback.
Yeah, that's one of the dangers of doing a very sneaky push like that, is the follow-up ain't there. That's a free power climb you're giving up to Drexel from base, and they took full advantage of it, already down to the 3 power climbs that were cashed in. The wipeout is there, but Drexel will happily take that home to the bank, as that is 21 points remaining, still a good amount of time. I saw what Nerdiana was trying to do there, just trying to get the offensive started, then Blaster was just trying to fall asleep with the Reef Slider, but they were just a little bit staggered, trying to follow it up with the next push, and then Drexel was just able to clamp everything down, recognizing, all right, we can get an even better push out of the board if we can be in possession, which they were able to, and already all the way home to 21 points remaining. Drexel looking good right now, and for UCSD Esports Gold, still decent amount of time, but they got to look for some semblance of control around the map.
Yeah, it may seem obvious as we see a splat there from Gillies, but that could be a turning point. And the main part of that, I mean, is you can easily have Nerdy Adam be the only one who goes in, and you can content yourself with getting a power clam in. He goes down, and then everybody else on your team stays put. But they invested so much in that push. They invest 2 more specials and get almost nothing out of it with the Reef Slider and the Tri-Strike, that it makes it so not worth it to go through. And now they're on the back foot, but they are holding onto a power clam. Oame backing off to make sure they can play defense. Turple getting the Ink Jet out, seeing if they can get the power clammed out, which is marked, of course, by the indicator, mainly using it to back off the members of UCSD. The big bubbler coming out as well, so that's 2 specials already expended here as Drexel takes control of mid, but a minute and a half left to go. And clam-wise, both of these teams are in about the same position, kind of juggling around 15, now 17 power clams for Drexel. Nobody with any picks right now. The Reef Slider back online as well, I believe, for the Dark Tetris there. Goatchild going to be looking for any picks, but right now, a stalemate as both teams look for picks, and it's Drexel who's going to get 3 of them, and they'll break open first now.
They're going to be able to break through, and Gillies has an open entrance to the base. It is 3 members down. This could be the KO. You were looking for the KO to see if anything can break through. Drexel's Splatoon response to that, a 4-2 victory for Drexel, and that was a phenomenal push. I know we could talk about how UCSD tried to make a push started with the sneaky push in, but it spectacularly blew up. Drexel was able to punish them from it, and that is how we get to this point. And Drexel improves to 2-1. UCSD Esports Gold drops against their first loss of the season.
Yeah, so I guess equivalently, both teams come out of this week at 2-1. It shows how closely these 2 teams played each other. You know, we thought for a long time could go to game 7, back and forth all the way through. This one not going to overtime. It is, of course, the only match that we saw that did not go to overtime, was the sort of cherry on top, the win for Drexel Dragons there. And what a great job that they did putting the part that we already talked about aside, the push from Nerdy Adams, so much stalwart defense once again, kind of hanging around on top, that overhang just by where the sniper typically sets up, and of course on the left where the ramp is to get to the actual barricade. So very strong job putting their specials to use in that way, and not so much using them in the same traditional way you would think of, where they would use them on the opponent's ramp to see if they can get through. They just wait for the overextensions to happen or to get those native 2 and 3 down situations, and then they push forward. We noted as well that they were so close back and forth. They had about the same number of clams, so it was going to be who's going to get that break first, or who is going to get an opening first. Ends up being Drexel. Big credit to them for creating that opening, and they pick up the set victory over UCSD Esports Gold.
And UCSD Esports Gold, that now getting their first loss of the season. That's gonna be a tough one though, for sure. With the way they played, there were some very phenomenal moments throughout the set where they were able to take a lot of control around certain maps. It just came down to a few key plays there, just trying to make something happen. It just didn't work out too well for them at this stage. I am hearing, by the way, the CCA tradition is gonna be in full effect there, so they will play just a practice game 7 coming up here. So just for people who aren't familiar with the tradition, usually we'll see teams play all 7, even if the set's over 4-2, so they can use it just to practice, or of course for the audience, just troll a little bit as well. So wondering to see if they want to commit to that. But I do want to take a quick look at the stats while both teams are just wanting to commit to the tradition here. I mean, it was very evident that at this point, Drexel had UCSD's number there for a lot of it. I saw a lot of splats across the board as we do get to load into Game 7, and that kind of showed in Game 6. So, are they actually going to at all troll? Okay, Blaster, I see what you did. Okay, yeah. You know, now the tradition's full of it. Now we get to see just maximum silly now at this point.
In UCSD Esports Gold's, when they answered the question, anything else you want to share with the production staff, their answer was, if Blaster plays H3, end the stream. So I don't know if it's going to be that serious. We are seeing an H3 come out. It's the H3D. So we'll see how it does. The one thing I want to note, you were talking about the stats there. Only 2 times were the members splatted there on the knockout Drexel Dragons. Grace and Turple only going down twice there. So really prioritizing their life over everything else. We're seeing some interesting weapons as well. Not bad by any stretch of the imagination. The ZNF Splat Charger, as well as the Mint Decavitator, things that we haven't seen. And on the opposite side, a weapon that's really sort of come into effect in recent months, and that being the Dreadrigger coming out from Oame, who's really been prioritizing these buckets this entire set.
And then that's kind of what I'm intrigued to see. I know obviously it won't matter too much in the stat sheets. There is okay now we get to see kind of what both teams, what UCSD Esports Gold in this case has been specializing. I know Drexel's admittedly, Zach, they're playing actual weapons that normally gets a lot of airtime there. The Zeko Firefin and the Mint Decaf. We see this everywhere, Drexel. We know what you're doing. But I'm actually going to be. But yeah, the Dreadriggers has been seeing a lot of airtime throughout, not just obviously in CCA, but also just in competitive Splatoon as a whole there, with a lot of teams I feel like have been prioritizing that it's so much as of late, and I'm all for it personally. I'm wanting to see if Dreadringer does get to pop a lot more, not just here in CCA at all, but also in competitive across the board. So want to see how this all plays out. By the way, Drexel has had the lead, so they're still definitely trying here at this stage.
Yeah, trying to make sure that, this result, not a fluke, showing that they can still take it down on any map and mode. Of course, this one being a 1-zone map as opposed to the 2-zone map that we saw earlier on Manta Maria. With Mahi being here, they're going to get the rest of the map extended, of course, and trying to flex around. The H3 going to go down once again. Mad Mix trying to set up. They've been using this crab tank so often. It's been one of the main things that UCSD has tried to shut down all day, and they've had better success at it at times than at others. Nice wipe out there by UCSD against Drexel. We can take a look at how far they want to get in. You do not want to let a player like Nerdy Adam get too far into your base. They're able to take out a Turple before going down. You get the crab tank online and get it set up here. Max Mix feeling confident enough to set up to try and back a Goat Child off, one of the last surviving members now of UCSD, and they will lose the Charger v Charger battle, sort of the unconventional fight there against the pencil. And now Drexel looking to see if they can get this penalty down to take the lead. They will lose Gillies early, but nice showing back and forth. And I'm always impressed, Q, at just how deep the wallet of weapons is that each of these players maintains.
Which one do I want to use? Which weapon card do I want to use today? I mean, I love personally as a person who has seen a lot of competitive Splatoon, at least in recent times. I love when players are able to be flexible in other weapons. It kind of feels like it adds another wrinkle to your team strategy, and also kind of throws the other player off guard. And if you're able to get a lot of good practice onto them, especially with not especially with the Dreadringer in play there from Ami, it could mean a lot for UCSD as they're actually able to play this one super aggressively coming up to the stage. Gilly's trying to get some work here with the decap, actually able to shut down Nerdy On, which could be huge. Gilly's now trying to swim right through. The bubble is going to be popped. 2 members are down. Drexel might actually be able to wrestle this control, which they will. So it's down to 10 points remaining there, but UCSD able to make it work.
Yeah, they're trying to see if we can go to another overtime to make it 6 out of 7 cumulatively for the set, as Drexel pretty easily getting rid of their entire penalty. And I love seeing weapons like the Mint Decapitator. It has the same sort of feel as the Carbon Deco, where you very much have to fly by the seat of your pants. You cannot be resting for a moment, even though there is that slight charge up time. You have an exceptional range, something that the Carbon Roller does not, as we see a wipeout forced against Drexel. Of course, they're going to have one more fight with a penalty over 50 that UCSD has to take care of. Nobody with their specials as of yet. And this is always such an interesting map because the drop downs are constantly being camped. You can't just fall down that short wall and make a game of it. You really have to be very careful with how you proceed. But that was 3 down, Keon, against Drexel. We'll have to see if they're able to get back in at all.
And if Drexel's not able to get back in, UCSD will at least take the moral dub here coming up here soon. As Owami is able to get one with on the Grace there. 2 members are down. Drexel is definitely looking to make it 6 for 7 here in overtime games here, Zach, as Gillies and the rest of Drexel is trying to swarm forward here as Gillies now trying to make it happen with this Mint Decapitator. I believe may have been the first we're seeing of Gillies with that one. 9 seconds left to go on the clock. There's a nice little slash on the Goat Child as they're out of the penalty points. 2 members already down. All it's going to stand for is just getting the lead swap if they're able to do so, with 15 points remaining. Still counting down. 2 members have gone down. There is the Reef Slider, which they actually lose control and is actually capped. I actually have to take a look at the score, unbelievably. I think UCSD does hold for that moral dub. Yes, they do by 1 point. It was still very well fought out at the end. There's actually.
Yeah, one of the closest matches that we see ends up being a little bit of a memey one, but shows once again how close in power these two teams are. I would love to see how this looks in the playoffs between these two teams, because I think it could be an absolute banger. And that Reef Slider, against that sort of L-shaped box, it doesn't really pass the eye test in terms of the ink being able to get over those walls and cover the entire zone. So definitely something that devs may want to take a look at and say, is this how the Reef Slider should behave? But I think the Reef Slider as a special, it's needed lots of W's for a long time. It's had to undergo a lot of changes there. So I guess it will take whatever it can get. But a very, very fun back and forth set between the Drexel Dragons, who do end up your victors today 4-2, giving UCSD Esports their first loss and bringing both teams on the run to 2-1 total. I'm so excited to see how these two teams finish out and whether we're going to see them play each other in the playoffs. Of course, standing wise, that is, as we mentioned, going to bring both of these teams to 2-1 in their same group. We do have a team already at 3-0, that being PSU Blue. And then we have other teams like USF Gold currently sitting at 1-1, Old Bay Brigade at 0-2, and then UCF, who's already completed their week 3 match, sitting at 0-3. So, definitely going to be fun to see what these two teams can continue bringing to the table and how close their respective matches will be from here on out.
I am super excited to see how this group plays out. We pretty much have exclusively covered this group so far here on the IPL side. Their USF Gold, that team has a lot of potential. I want to see how far they can go. PSU Blue, the only team undefeated out of this group in the 3 weeks of play that we've seen. So I want to see how this group definitely shapes out by the end. And if PSU Blue so far can keep that streak going, Drexel Dragons Platoon in this case, definitely trying to build that momentum into this 4th week coming up here. And UCSD Esports Gold, got to go back to the drawing board, see what they got to look back at and see what they can improve on in future weeks there. Zach, I'm glad to have you around for this coverage of the CCA League, this best of 7. You got to see the first taste of the CCA tradition as well. So thank you for really joining on this one. Where can people find you real quick?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Would have loved to be here. Last week was sick, unfortunately. Super glad to be here the rest of the way through, hopefully. And you can find me on Twitter or Blue Sky at Shiny Hunter Zach. Zach. Post kind of irregularly, but you'll see me around. I'll post typically on tournament days, and love to take a look at these teams. I cannot wait to see how the rest of the CCA rolls out. It's been so fun, Keon, and of course, thanks to everybody at CCA for having me. I appreciate it, Keon. Where can the people find you?
Yeah, same deal. You can find me in Blue Sky and Twitch, Keon2570. You know the drill. Just smash the follow button on that one. Of course, I will also be covering the CCA here throughout the season as well. So you'll find both of us at this exact same time here, 7 Central, for sure. Shout outs to CKK for being our producer here today. We'll get to see what next week holds if we for a matchup. So Zach, thank you for hopping in. I am Keon saying have a good rest of your night. We'll see you guys next week for more CCA league action. Until then, have yourselves a good rest of your week.